is Wednesday, April 20th, 4 p.m. The Tweed New Haven Board of Directors meeting is now in session. I need a motion to approve the minutes from March 16, 2022.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Peter. Second.
Second.
Thanks, man. Jerry. Any discussions or amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Motion carries. Mr. Scanlon, are you ready for the executive director's report?
I am. Hi, everybody, and good to see everybody. We are going to be doing an executive session later on in this meeting to discuss the parking proposal. So I will save some comments about that. I know we wanted to talk about that last month and just touch on a few other things. First of all, our employments continue to be great. The service continues to be very well received and very popular. I believe that you will potentially see some more announcements of new routes coming up in a few weeks, which I think is continuously very, very exciting. And we really continue to be very happy about where that's at. Our environmental assessment continues to move forward. We are feeling good about being on track to hopefully be in a place to wrap that up by the summer of this year. And in the next 2 months or so, you'll begin to see some information be shared about that, whether it's on the noise contours. The noise study has been is close to being done. We're trying to wrap it up as we speak. We're looking at the traffic, all of that kind of stuff that people have had a lot of questions about. We will soon have some answers to what the EA found with regard to those issues. On the issue that I have heard from folks a little bit about, which is noise, there have unfortunately been a series of late flights coming into the airport. And I think it's something that whenever there's a flight that lands at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, obviously it's something that understandably is going to get a lot of concern about the neighbors. It's concerning to me, to be honest with you. And unfortunately, we have had quite a few of them in the last few weeks, and I'll get to that in a second. But statistically, since November, when Avelo launched, there have been 1,200 flights in and out of New Haven. As of last week, only 15 of those flights landed after midnight. Unfortunately, 6 of those 15 happened in the last 30 days. And the reason for that is because of a issue down in Florida with regard to weather, where there has been some severe weather lately. And because of that weather, and because of the buildup at these airports with air traffic control, sometimes the Avelo flights don't get off anywhere near close to where we would want them to be in order to get to HVN in time to land before the reasonable hour that we expect those flights to be. So I have communicated to the airline that I feel like those 2:30 flights are very unacceptable. I know they're unacceptable to the community, and we are trying to work on solutions. Hopefully this is a temporary thing due to a burst of bad weather that's been happening down in Florida and some air traffic control issues that they're having down there. But we are paying close attention to this, and we are working with Avelo to make sure that this doesn't happen, because we do want to make sure that people are not having these flights come in and out in the middle of the night. So would leave that there and just let folks know that if they have questions or concerns about that, happy to talk more about that. And with that, I will stop and see if anybody has any questions.
I haven't had any bad weather here. I don't know.
Yeah, the palm tree.
Time.
Any questions for our executive director? Nice comment though, Dan. Thank you.
Don't get it.
Anybody else? Make sure you pace yourself, Dan. I'm not sure what you're drinking either, but we'll let it go. Chairman's report. I have nothing to say right now. Mr. Arnold, are you ready for your Finance Committee report?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, we have, as you know from your packet today, we have 2 months reports. February, we'll start out with, I'm going to talk broad numbers. each month, and then we'll talk about a little more detail that's basically the same for both months. The net income loss for February, as you see in the report, is $338. Brings the year to date up to just under 1.3 million in the red. At the end of March, we had a positive net income of just under $34,000, brought down the negative number year to date at 1.256 million. Though that negative, again, as we talked about in prior months, a lot of that is engineering and costs associated with bringing in all the changes we've had, and a good part of that will get reimbursed. Actually, that number is all part of the negotiation, so I don't anticipate when the lease is signed that that number will be there at all. It should be, we should be in good shape financially. The numbers, basically, the only negative that we've had for the budget for this year so far, again, July 2021 through March 2022, is really associated with parking. Excuse me, not parking, with the rental cars. Seems that a lot of our traffic has been leaving from New Haven. Obviously, people going to Florida so far. Parking has been wonderful, exceeding all of our expectations.
Really?
People are not renting the cars. The people that are renting the cars, for the majority, are actually locals that are not coming to the airport for a flight, but are actually just coming to the airport to rent a car. So at least the locals in the community are using the airport. The ones that aren't flying are also using it for rental. So it is an asset in that regard.
And Kevin, can I just interrupt you for 1 second and just say, I think it's important context for our conversation a little bit later about the parking, which is that, you know, Jeremy can chime in here. We have a historic level of people parking at this airport comparative to other airports around the country. There is a disproportionate share of people who are parking there. I think part of that has to do with the fact that it's new for a lot of people. So they're checking it out and they're trying it out. But two is that our parking is so convenient compared to so many other airports that they're willing to take a look at this online, see that it's pretty easy to park there and pretty close, and they're willing to pay the rate to do that and do it, versus renting a car, versus taking an Uber or a Lyft, or doing that kind of stuff. So I think it's important for the board to know that we're bringing in, on average, every month, $200,000 to $300,000 in parking revenue, but it is not happening in the other pieces that we thought it would, which has changed our budget projections a little bit.
Correct, exactly. And, the projections overall are in good shape, but that is, and the other negative that we've had is the CAA subsidy that we've talked about a couple of months ago. But other than that, we're in good shape. I just wanted a broad overview of February, March, and year to date, where the numbers are off and where they're not off. So as Sean said, parking has been fantastic, exceeding all expectations. So we're very happy about that. That is, the benefit of New Haven is the convenience, and it shows in the parking numbers. So.
Thanks. As Kevin has said, it's the parking revenue, right, is way up. So we're very excited about that. And I think the other point you brought up is the larger numbers. We will fully expect, when the lease is signed, it will get reimbursed.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Kevin.
Go ahead, Peter.
When were these figures, when did you finish these figures, Kevin?
The initial budget figures were finalized back in May, early June.
No, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is everything that was printed out that I received an hour and 20 minutes ago with no ability all to even read this stuff. If you had it done, it should have gone out Friday or Monday or Tuesday, not an hour and 20 minutes before the meeting.
Yeah.
People, other members who are in their cars or who aren't in their office have the same situation. It's wonderful on a
Image-
teeny little iPhone. I can't even read what you sent. Thank you.
Sure. Peter, you're 100% absolutely correct. I agree. There was some things that had to get fixed. Yesterday, we found some issues that had to get corrected, some pockets. So I did not receive the finalized numbers until half an hour before you did. So you're 100% correct. We try to get them earlier. That's part of what, with the numbers coming out for March. February, for sure.
And
But-
Peter, let me just say, this is not Kevin's fault. This is on me. So I don't want, Kevin to be receiving the brunt of this criticism here. We always do try to get it out as soon as we can, but we can always do a better job of that. And we'll certainly try to do better next month.
Hey, listen, I'm going to jump in real quick. Peter brought up a fair point. As we got them, normally we get them a lot earlier than this, so it happened. So we're just going to keep working on it. But Peter, thanks for bringing it up, and we're going to try not to let it happen again. But sometimes, things happen.
Yeah, they don't have printers in the pool.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You and Dan are struggling over there,
Well, I think we get a lot of stuff too late, and I think that something really needs to be worked on because, as responsible directors, we need time to be able to take a look at stuff. And this has been a pretty chronic problem. I agree with Peter.
Well, we'll work on it. I don't totally disagree. I know there's times where the agenda has changed almost just before we get it. So it's something that I agree with, and we'll keep working on it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Any other questions for Kevin? Okay, Mr. Nielsen, are you ready for the airport manager's report? Jeremy, you there?
I am. Good afternoon. A few highlights. I think I've mentioned a couple construction projects, the largest of which is our taxiway Alpha Fox and Gulf project that just got underway about a week ago. We are currently in phase 1 of that project, which includes dredging out swales on the east side of the airfield around where Robinson Aviation is. It is involved, Sean went out and did some door knocking last week, getting the neighbors up to speed on what's happening. So there's no surprises there. So we've been working closely with the contractors, and we're on schedule for phase 1 to be completed on time. So that's good to see that project going. We'll start to see some of the work on the air side commencing here in the next several weeks. That'll focus on the bulk of the work, which is the taxiway and the ramp of Robinson Aviation. We conducted our tabletop exercise on March 24th with our mutual aid partners, New Haven and East Haven. We had a great turnout, and we were able to introduce the Velo into that scenario. There's a lot of good lessons learned from the conversations that were had. We continue to have aircraft familiarization with both East Haven and New Haven. Vail has been very accommodating, getting access to their airplanes so that first responders are comfortable with the aircraft in the event they did have to respond to an actual event. So that's been a positive team building experience with our ARF people, and then local East Haven, New Haven, and Availo as well. So that's been good. We continue to work very closely with Availo. We have meetings. Actually, I have a meeting right after this with Availo, going through our ramp up for the anticipation of 12 flights. Late May, early June. Some things we're looking at. We're looking at capacity, seating for passengers, making sure we have accommodations for the number of people we're going to have. We're looking at flood proofing of the terminal. We have had some history there. So we're looking to, the next several weeks, that project will be underway, where we will be able to better protect the assets that are in the terminal, and also reduce interruption to service. Looking at, we had the fire marshal out, taking a second look at everything, making sure we're doing everything in coordination with them, because we are going to be managing a significant number of people, so we want to make sure we're doing that in the safest way possible. We have received some significant capital investments as far as equipment goes. We received a new loader for snow removal, so that's going to be a welcome addition. We have a new ARF truck that's currently in production. We expect that to be delivered by December. And then we just received bids for a new snow plow and a new runway sweeper. We can expect those before the snow falls. Well, actually probably a year from now. It takes about 400 days to actually produce those vehicles. So those are in the works and that'll help us. We're working really closely with Avail to try to make us really a 24/7 airport. It's difficult to do that with the limited equipment we have, but we have a plan to get the equipment to where we need so we can really maintain the runway that we need to, so we can have continuous operations as long as possible, and limit delays and cancellations. And I think that's one final thing. We are issuing an RFP for a new FID system, a flight information display. That'll be a welcome tool for Availo, ourselves, and then a service to the customer to give better, more up-to-date information on flights. The more flights we have, there's going to be more confusion about which gates and timing, and so that's in motion. So that'll be a nice enhancement. And then lots of other punch list items I won't bore you with, but we are very busy, and we are excited to make the improvements that are necessary to see this airport continue to grow. Thank you, and available to take any questions.
One other thing I wanted to just mention that I thought Jeremy would mention, and I neglected to mention in my report, which was that I'm sure all of you are aware that a couple of days ago, a federal judge ruled that the mask mandate on flights was not constitutional. And so Jeremy and I discussed this yesterday. I consulted with the city. We were in a little bit of a difficult situation at first because we technically are a city-owned building, and the city of New Haven has a mask mandate still in place for all city-owned buildings and schools. But in consulting with the mayor and his corporation council, they determined that the federal rule preempts the local rule. And so yesterday we announced that we will no longer be enforcing the mask mandate in the terminal, though we did publicly recommend that people continue to still wear masks when they're here at HVM. Obviously, it seems like the Biden administration is going to challenge that ruling, and so the mandate may come back. But in the meantime, we will not be enforcing any mask mandate here at the airport.
Thank you, Sean. Any other questions for Jeremy? Thanks, Jeremy. We have a resolution number 555, approval of the amendment to number 1 task order number 5 for the professional service agreement with the Jones Payne Group for the noise compatibility program. Can you make a motion, please?
Boom.
A second.
Second.
Thanks, Peter. Discussion. Sean, you want to just give a quick highlight?
Yeah, so essentially, the previous, well, let me back up. As I think everybody on this call knows, we have done 6 phases of a noise mitigation program based on a noise study that was done back in 2012. We were about to do the 6th and final phase of that, which is only a handful of houses remaining in the initial eligibility tranche. But the contractor that we had selected, Holzner, withdrew from the award due to the cost of prices for suppliers, subcontractors, and therefore was unable to proceed at his bid price. So we had to consult with the FAA. It took a lot of time. We had to go back to them quite a bit. Jeremy and I were working with Chuck and Johnson, and we ended up getting the okay from the feds to essentially rebid the contract, and the process played out. And so this was the services rendered by Jones Payne, which is the firm that we've been using to kind of quarterback this process. And that's what this is all about. Jeremy, is there anything I missed there you think we should add?
I think that's good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
typically in our world, there are bid bonds that are posted and then there are performance bonds posted. Is anything to that effect here?
for Holzman, you mean?
Jeremy, do you want to talk about kind of where we're at on that?
I'll have to get in touch. I do know that there are some that there is some discussions on how we would handle that. I'll have to get back to you, Matt, but I know there are some things that are in there. It's just, I'm not sure what the full details were, but I think the FAA has some pull on that as well. But let me do some research on that and get back to
It
you.
just wasn't something we definitively decided to do yet, Matt.
Okay.
Thanks, Matt. I just pointed out the increase for the services from 421,523 are not to exceed 464,324. So I'll make sure that's in there. Any other discussion? So we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 555, approval of the task order professional service agreement Jones Payne Group not to exceed 464,324. All those in favor say aye or just raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? That motion carries. So I want to just, before we get to executive session, and in the executive session, I think everybody here knows, there is no vote there. We're going to go through I'll read that into the executive session when we ask for the motion, but I just want to make sure everyone knows there was no vote in executive session. I'd also ask this board, I'd like to move to the consideration to the public to move the public information session up to now, so they don't have to wait for, us to get out of executive session. So if there's anybody from the public who'd like to speak, we're going to have the public information session now, unless I hear differently from the board.
And just, Mr. Chairman, as I say every month, and as you remind people, this is not a dialogue or a back and forth or a question and answer session. I would encourage the neighbors that are with us today, if there are any, to contact me independently, which I think most of you that are here today have done, and we are certainly in communication. But we cannot answer questions in this forum. This is really just meant for people to give 3 minutes worth of comments and have their ability as a neighbor to do that.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, it's not a back and forth, it's the public information session, so that's what it is. We would like to respectfully keep them to 3 minutes or less so other people can speak. So is there anybody from the public who would like to speak?
Mr. Picard, thank you so much for giving me this time. This is Lorena Venegas from
I missed
73
the-
George Street in East Haven. And today I wanted to make sure that the public continues to have access to information. Yesterday, there was a stewardship committee and those members don't have primary sources. Some of them have not even read the master plan. I was really surprised by the questions because they were very basic where we are in this year so far. And we need to make sure that our public is fully aware of everything that's happening with the environmental assessment, including draft documents and also the meeting recordings. Yesterday, there was a Zoom meeting and that recording needs to be posted to the Fly Tweed website under the airport information. As far as East Haven and traffic counters, I only saw them at the corner of Proto Drive and Co. And I wanted to know if there's going to be more traffic counters throughout the city because the EA had over 11 different traffic points that would be affected by traffic and freight. Talking about freight, Scrog redlined the document, but it doesn't match any of the Connecticut DOT regional plans up to the year 2045, which is plans that were already released. So when you redline something for freight and say that, you're only going to dedicate yourselves to passengers, it doesn't match what's happening at the state and at the federal level. So that needs to be reconciled for our town. And just a reminder that East Haven is an environmental justice town, which puts us in a disproportionate negative effects of what's happening with expansion. Yale can make all the money, Ben Petrini can make all the money, American Rescue can make all the money, but nobody's making money in East Haven. And there has to be more. A community benefits plan is what we need, and that's an update to the master plan. Thank you so much and have a good afternoon.
Venegas, I would appreciate, you want to say Yale can make all the money, please refrain from pointing on individuals, but thank you for your input. Is there anybody else from the public would like to speak? Felipe, I'm looking at you. Please give me your address, please, for the board.
Hi there. My name's Amanda Sullivan and I'm on Edgar Street. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes. Full address.
Oh, I'm sorry. 62 Edgar Street in East Haven.
Go ahead, man.
Okay, excellent. And you guys can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just have a question about the jet fuel emissions. Sean, we've been in contact about that. Hi, Sean. And I actually sent an email today. I'm sure you probably saw it, but basically, I know a lot of things depend on the report that you'll be getting back, the environmental report. And I did see lately that that is now possibly delayed. And is that true?
We're not doing question and answer.
It's not a question and answer. We will have someone respond after the meeting. We do not engage in dialogue and back and forth.
Oh, okay.
We'll
I'm sorry.
we'll
So
have somebody-
let me just, I'll make a statement instead of a question. So I just want to let it be known that the jet fuel emissions are pretty awful in the neighborhood. I can't imagine what it's going to be like in May or even when Tweed does grow bigger, and that's concerning. And I just want to have my voice be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Name and address, please.
Hi there. Hopefully I'm on. Name is
You're on.
Tony Laurentii. I'm actually out of the neighborhood. I'm a Meriden, Connecticut resident, so forgive me for having an opinion. My stakeholder perspective is I'm a commercial pilot, so I have occasion to fly into Tweed and other airports in furtherance of my job. I'm not an Avello pilot. I just want to offer first my words of encouragement and enthusiasm for what I'm seeing at Tweed, becoming the resource and item that it is for the region, having seen Tweed for many years, nearly 30 years in its heyday, and seeing now I'm very encouraged by what I see. I offer some technical perspective as a pilot. Sean brought up the issue with delays and weather. I would encourage everyone to look up the FAA's website, the command center, the traffic management unit. These are all very common and typical things that happen with air traffic. Having flown out of Newark Liberty for more years than I care to imagine as a captain, delays happen. This will continue. It's a reality of air traffic. There are very many catchphrases, edict times, wheels up times. These are related to traffic and congestion. I also want to offer my technical assistance in the future, if able, as a pilot, to address a slew of misinformation campaigns that are going on. This is my profession. This is what I do, and I take great exception to individuals who take liberty of communicating to the public false, misleading, and frankly frightening information that no one needs. So however I could be of assistance in that regard, I'd be happy to, but it's very concerning given my position. I have really no vested interest in Tweed other than the direct safety aspects of what I do for a living. So I'm here to help educate from a technical perspective in, again, whatever ways possible. And it's just very concerning to see the litany of campaigns that are just flagrant misinformation and wrong assertions.
Mr. Laurentii, I did hear you say Meriden. I must have missed the address. Could you please repeat?
Sure. 23 Briar Lane, BRIAR in Meriden. And again, a vested stakeholder, as I'm responsible, of course, for not only myself, but passengers and the people who I care greatly that are below when I'm flying my airplane. Not mine personally, I might add. It's obviously the company aircraft.
Well, thank you very much for your input.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public who would wish to speak? Second time. Felipe, none. Third time, public information session is now closed. So we're gonna need a motion to enter executive session for revised park plan under Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, Section 1210B1, Section 1210B5, and Section 1210B7. Can I get a motion, please? Daniel,
Also move.
thank you,
Second.
Peter. All right. So we need a motion to get out of executive session.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're back into a regular session. Any other business? Excuse me, we have a resolution 556, approval of the revised parking plan rates. I should probably read those. Resolution 556, approval of the revised parking plan and new rates. Therefore, be resolved, the authority approves the plan as presented, amends the current rate and charges and approves the parking rates effective May 15, 2022. Short-term lot daily rates increase from $18 to $25. Parking walk lot daily rate increase from $18 to $20. Economy lots daily rate remains unchanged at $15. Get that in the form of a motion, please.
Moved.
So moved.
Thanks, Dan. Second, Joe, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? That motion carries. Any other business? Seeing none. Peter, you
Motion to adjourn. Peter, where are you?
good, man. That's okay. Second, someone second that?
Second.
Meeting is adjourned at 5:12 PM. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.